It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in. Sports by the Book is the show. South Point Studio is the site. I'm Jeff Parles. We're happy to be with you as always. Alex White alongside. Let's get rolling on a Saturday. The final full one in the regular season. There are some conference tournaments going as well as we get rolling on a Saturday.
8 days until Selection Sunday. I can't wait. But for now, we still do have a really good card here and a lot of great games to go through.
Let's start with St. John's and Georgetown. St. John's, they have moved their way onto the bubble in the correct way. They have won five in a row after that really just awful stretch where they're 4-1 in conference, went to 6-9 in conference, now at 10-9. They get DePaul today at Madison Square Garden. They get Georgetown. We'll get to DePaul later. They beat DePaul earlier in the week. See, I'm so excited to talk about DePaul that I have to bring them up on multiple occasions. I can't believe I did this. I actually took 19.5 with Georgetown. I even missed the best of it. There was 20 earlier. Missed it earlier in this morning. Alex, I don't expect much to be had on this game. I just thought the number was too big, even a 19.5, and that's what I ended up taking. It's down to 19 behind us right now.
So I don't mind it. I mean, when they played, the line was 9.5, St. John's on the road at Georgetown. So this is a huge swing with 10 points. I do think it's about right with how these two teams are playing and the direction that they're going in. It's a very important game for St. John's as well, as you mentioned, in the bubble now, but they need to take care of business here. But that doesn't say that they can't win by 15 here. So nothing for me, but I understand grabbing with that number.
Well, look, a comfortable win, like you said, very easily could be 17 points. Just need to lose the game by 19, guys. We're in good shape there if that were to be the case on the Georgetown end of things. All right, let's get off of that game. Enough of that. Let's go to Alabama, Tuscaloosa. Alex's favorite team, Arkansas, on the road at Bama today. So we were looking at the total in this game. Alabama's 15.5-point favorites. Neither of us have anything on the side, but the total here. If you got those early numbers at the South Point, or after it was bet down, some earlier overnights came out, was 175.5, which is what it's at right now. Got bet down to 174, and now has come back up the ladder to 175.5. Honestly, I think the 175.5 is still fine if you want to bet that thing over. But if you got the 174.5, like I know you did, Alex, that is a very good number in a game that I expect to be in the mid-70s at a bare minimum possession-wise.
So you have to remember, Jeff, at one point, both of these teams were my favorite throughout this year. Bama, clearly I grabbed a ticket on them pretty early, maybe a little too early this year. But you're right. I like this over. There's going to be a lot of possessions. Both of these teams play very fast. I think you're okay here still at the 175.5. I will just say, though, this is only a half-unit play for me because it is such a high total. Anything can happen. They can have a 4-minute drought with no points, right? So just to tread lightly, especially how important each of these games are here down the stretch and getting into conference play, looking for more unders. So half a unit play for me here on the over. Over
for Alex. Don't worry. We'll get to unders. We'll get to unders later in the show. If you listen to our guy Sam Panayotovich last Saturday, it's been quite the cash cow in St. Louis through the first 8 games of that tournament in the Missouri Valley. We'll get to that a little bit later. Memphis, Florida Atlantic up next. Now, so our guy Sean back there has, I don't know, I guess it's just because Memphis plays a lot on on Sundays when there's less games. It feels like Sean has a bet on every single Memphis game that has happened on a weekend this year. They play Florida Atlantic. We know the deal with FAU. They've been horrible against the number. They've been a favorite in every single game in conference play. First matchup between these teams was pretty recent. Memphis beat them in Memphis a few weekends ago. I can't do anything here. I just saw this on the overnight. I saw 7. I didn't want it then. Don't really want 7.5 either with the Tigers on the road with a total up to 163. Alex, any bases here on this game? just can't do anything here.
So you brought up the revenge factor for FAU. So I do think that they get it done today. I think they win this game at home. But you also brought up the fact that they have not been covering these numbers. I think it's too many points. I went ahead and took that 7.5 with Memphis here. They are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5, shooting an average 84 and 49% shooting from the field, holding teams to 75. So this Memphis team is playing better. These are two of the best offenses in the AAC. So it's going to be a great game. I think Memphis can hang in there. I do think Florida Atlantic gets the win, though.
It is, for me, this is a very difficult handicap, as I said. And for Florida Atlantic, look, we've talked about the American South Florida, who we will talk about later in the show. They're in action again today. They've already won the American outright for the regular season. FAU is the only team that we know is going to go to the big dance out of this league. Memphis needs to win in Fort Worth next week. Same with SMU, same with Charlotte.
Yep.
And probably in the end, same with South Florida. Fair or not, with that long win streak, if they don't win the conference tournament next week in Fort Worth, they're probably going to the NIT. So this very easily could end up being a one-bid league this year in that conference. All right. We're a quick detour to the Ivy here because the number's been batted down here. And this is what I was actually waiting for in this game, Alex, because this was 12.5 on some overnights. South Point opened 11.5 and hasn't moved off of it. I'm waiting to see if we can get this down to 11 in the next 25 minutes, and then I would look to lay Yale. Brown has been a great story in this league where you look at the talent. I thought that they were going to finish next to last. I thought the only team that was behind them was clearly Dartmouth. Dartmouth, the worst team in that league by a significant margin. But here they are. They are going to the Ivy tournament next week in New York. We already know this. They're there. They're the 4 seed. They're locked in. And I don't love the angle of, hey, team has nothing to play for. It's something to play for, as always, when you're going out there. But Yale is playing potentially for a 1 seed still in this conference tournament. Princeton plays Penn later in the day. If this gets to 11, we get down another half, I would look to lay the Bulldogs at home. I expect this to be a big-time effort on both sides of the ball. And if you look at the analytic profiles, Yale is 86th, amazingly, in both offensive and defensive efficiency, which is pretty hard to do at this point of the year. And Brown, look, great story, but Brown's sub 200 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. They're not a good basketball team. They've just played above their heads for an extended period of time now.
I'm with you. I made Yale a 13-point favorite here, so looking to see if we can get that a little bit lower before laying that big number. But I like your angle there. It's important to know who is playing for a seeding, right? And we know Yale is still playing for that 1 seed.
Moving along, I will say this: the order will not be the same as the rotation number order because all those conference tournaments come below. And the next Saturday, we'll make sure you have all your numbers as we're going through all this. I will say some 9 a.m. games that I like in the conference tournaments. Sean, I didn't send these to you, but it's okay. I like Campbell up to 5. Now against Monmouth, they're an underdog in that game. I'll take the Camels plus the 5 in D.C. I don't mind Mercer plus 9 against Samford starting at the top of the hour. That one I'm a little more hesitant on. Mercer played yesterday, handled their business, covered all numbers. Samford, the number 1 seed in that conference tournament, they want to run. So that is always a dangerous game when you're getting a team that's a favorite. And we saw it yesterday with Indiana State, where Missouri State stayed in for about 20 minutes and then got smacked in the second half and didn't cover a big number. So that's always a concern in that one. And then the only other 9 a.m. Pacific games in conference tournaments are High Point and Longwood, extra board. Longwood is a big dog in that one. High Point has their game on the home court. High Point really messed around for a half yesterday, came back and demolished Radford in the second half. Probably looking at an in-game angle on that one. And then Lemoyne and Merrimack, no thank you, I know nothing. 7 on Merrimack, who, of course, last year beat Fairleigh Dickinson in the NEC title game, but was ineligible because of stupid NCAA rules.
I'll have a couple conference tournament plays later, but none on the 9 a.m. games.
Yeah, I just wanted to get those early ones out there. just because we will be missing them if we don't hit them
absolutely.
Right now. All right, we move along. Texas A&M and Ole Miss is an interesting game in the SEC.
Yes.
A&M is still supposedly on the bubble. I don't see it. I know they have a few very good wins at home and some neutrals as well. They go to Oxford. Ole Miss, we've talked about them. Their resume's mediocre. Their analytic profile's mediocre. They're 20-10. They lost to Georgia on Tuesday. Really just putting them in a scenario where they have to win at least getting to the finals in Nashville next week to give themselves an opportunity. 70 right now, 143.5, 1.5 on Ole Miss at home against Texas A&M. I actually like the Aggies in this game. I just full fade of Ole Miss, where their only wins since February 3rd, Alex. They have 2 wins. They beat Missouri twice. It's not good. It's not good that their only wins are against the winless in-conference Missouri Tigers. So I like A&M here as a short road dog. I
do too. I would take that money line too. I think they can win this one. They actually have revenge against Mississippi. So before just those 2 wins with Missouri, Mississippi did actually beat Texas A&M. So they have revenge going to their home court. A&M's the much better defense here. And you already talked about the Rebels, but really they're about 150th defensively in the country. They're 2-7 in their last 9, like you mentioned, and only covered in 2 of those 9 games. So I think it's a good spot to jump on the Aggies. The best offensive rebounding team in the conference and pretty close up there in the country. So I'm with you here.
Let's keep it rolling. This is not the most attractive game in the Big 12. 2 teams that will be playing on the first day of the Big 12 tournament, which, by the way, is now on Tuesday because of the 14-team league they have now. So that unbelievably fun week in Kansas City extends a day. Cincinnati hosting West Virginia. You know, this is just one of those, Alex, where you see the numbers like, whoa, Cincinnati's double digits in conference? We know West Virginia's analytic profile is bad. We know West Virginia's been brutal away from Morgantown. They have no conference road wins. They were better on the road these last 2 times out. They really gave Iowa State a pretty good fight, losing that game by 7, covering as a big underdog very easily. And then that wackadoo comeback against K-State where they're down by 20+. Actually had the lead late in regulation. K-State forced overtime, and then West Virginia ran out of gas in that one. 2 non-covers the last 2 games at home against Texas Tech and TCU. I would only lean to the Mountaineers here. I just don't think that Cincinnati should be double digits in conference against anyone. With that said, I would tread carefully here if you're taking the Mountaineers.
I was looking at the total in this one. If I were to play this game, I would play the over.
Ooh, okay.
I think there's a little bit of value here. You mentioned West Virginia playing better, hanging in those big games. They've also been allowing a lot of points throughout their last 5 games, 81.2 points a game. So if we can get about 81 from Cincinnati, who's averaging 77 at home, and then if West Virginia can hang in this one, as you suspect, get about 71 from there, I think we could have a 150-point game here between these 2. Really, I mean, West Virginia, their defense is not very good, about 130th in the country. So I think if I were to play this one, it's not one of my best plays, but I would play it over.
I actually didn't expect that from you there. I'll be honest with you. I will say, you look at the defensive analytic numbers, Cincinnati's defense, actually 21st in the country, rating on grade. West Virginia, not so much. Far and away the weakest defense in the Big 12 at this point of the season. Let's go back to the Ivy. See, I don't know why. They always go back to the Ivy League. All comes back to that. Cornell on the road in New York to take on Columbia. Final game for the Lions. So Cornell's will play in this gym next week. That's where the conference tournament is. Top 4 are there. We already know it. Cornell's going to, based off the numbers, unless if Yale and Princeton lose and we get some real chicanery, which Yale's not going to lose today, so regardless, it won't matter. Cornell's going to be the 3. Columbia's playing their final regular season game, final game of the year. At 6, I thought this was really good on Columbia, actually, taking the points. At 5.5, I still don't mind it. Would honestly be a little bit of would be closer to about an 8/10 of a unit play as opposed to a full unit play as we get below the 6. But the first matchup between these teams was all the way back on January 9th. So both of these teams are very different than the first time they met. So I'm willing to take the points with Columbia. Now, Columbia is a lead balloon right now. There's no arguing that. They've lost 5 in a row. They were 4-4 in conference play. I thought they were going to get the 4 seed. They ended up obviously now near the bottom of the league, only Dartmouth fully behind them. But I just think it's too many points in this game. And again, a weird, effort spot is, I don't love going with that, but it is a weird spot for Cornell where they're not going to really be able to move up. And they're playing it. Really, just get yourself familiar with this gym over this game so you're ready for next week.
Right, and just get the win here. I will say with these final home games, I'm looking more for dogs here at home on senior night where they can really make a push as opposed to these big favorites where they could have some distractions and aren't fully in it. So I don't mind that play at all. I would look at the dog here as well.
Oklahoma, Texas. Oh, finally some movement on this game. Up to 5.5 on this one. I thought this number should have came 7. So, yes, not getting the best of it. Understand it. Still think it's fine on Texas. Now, we saw this matchup already once in Norman. Texas went there, handled their business, won as an underdog in that game against OU. That was back in January, won by 15. That game really wasn't even that close.
Yep.
We've talked about Oklahoma. I really don't think this team's particularly good. You're just getting in because of the strength of the league. If they were in a different league, they would be squarely on the bubble as opposed to this 8-9 pretty safe team at this point. You look at their resume, I mean, in non-con, their best win was Iowa. Not particularly great. But when you beat Iowa State, when you beat BYU, when you go on the road, beat Cincinnati, you're going to get the advantage of that. And all these Q1 losses gives them an advantage. I mean, look, other than Iowa State and the BYU game, those are the only two high-end wins they have, at least by the way that I look at it. All right, you won at Cincinnati, you beat Cincinnati twice. They're not an NCAA tournament team. They're going to finish 11th in the league.
Right.
You won at Kansas State. All right, great. They're going to finish 10th in the league. So, for me, Oklahoma, in a normal circumstance, I don't think has done enough to be in the tournament. But because of the league they're in, they're fine. But not for today. I like Texas even at 5.5, even though it was 5 earlier in the overnights.
I agree, Jeff. I didn't play this one. I did make the number 7 as well, like you're saying, so I would definitely lean to Texas here. It's weird. I've been using CBB analytics a lot, and you're right about this Sooners team because they are very low in the ratings in this conference in fast break points, three-point shooting, and offensive rebounding.
Well, that's not good. 3
really important things in this game, right? So I'm with you. I think they're a little bit overrated. They have those few really good wins, but Texas is by far the better team.
I will tell you, Alex, my favorite stat, free throw defense. Oklahoma's terrible at free throw defense. It's more just bad luck more than anything. What a team right now. Oklahoma's 334th in free throw defense, which just means the teams against them are making their free throws, which is pretty bad luck more so than anything. All right, let's go to a game that you have something on. I passed on this one completely. Notre Dame, Va Tech. Virginia Tech is 10. Oh, boy, that is a lot of points to be laying with Virginia Tech. A total of 135.5 here, Alex.
So they do have the revenge factor, Virginia Tech. Notre Dame won the first one, 74-66, but I just think this is way too many points, even for a revenge angle that you're going. The Fighting Irish are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5, averaging 69 points compared to 63 on the year. So they've been playing a lot better offense, and we know that is where Notre Dame has struggled. They are out of the top 200 in the country, but they can take advantage here because Virginia Tech is out of the top 100 defensively. So a little bit of a contrast of better offense, better defense here, but I think Notre Dame can hang around in this one and cover that 10.
It would be only a take for me in this game. I don't want to lay points with Va Tech. No thanks. Total's interesting though. As Notre Dame, other than earlier in the week when North Carolina embarrassed them, what are you going to do? UNC looked awesome in that game, and they're one of the best teams in the country. Notre Dame's won 5 out of 7. It's been much better for them, and it started with that win against Va Tech back on February the 10th, the day before the Super Bowl. Honestly, looking at the numbers, the under is not bad either. I wish it was 137. If we got 137, we definitely go under. But even at 135 and a half, I still think that might be okay if you wanted at least a lean for me, which we know the leans are awesome, Alex. We know the leans always win as opposed to the actual bets on my end. All right, Iowa State and K-State. So, Alex, this number popped early on K-State for me, where it was 4.5 on one of the openers, and I thought that was shockingly good on K-State. Now it's down to 3.5 here. There's also 3s in the market, which I think is more correct. Now, we talked about home road splits in this conference. Iowa State, undefeated at home. The best home team in the country. On the road, they still haven't been bad. They only have 4 road losses in conference. They lost to Oklahoma, which we talked about earlier, really the win that has Oklahoma safely in the NCAA tournament right now. They lost to BYU, where BYU almost got them in Ames earlier this week. They lost to Baylor by 2 in that wackadoo game, which was a lot of fun. And they lost to Houston. So their worst loss is Oklahoma on the road. So they've only lost to the high-end teams, for the most part, away from Ames. They handled their business in Fort Worth. They handled their business in Austin, Cincinnati, and Orlando. Kansas State fits in with that crowd that they beat. So I'm a little bit worried here, at least at the lower number laying it. If you could have got that 4.5, and if you got it, job well done. I think that's solid. But now that we're getting close, down to especially 3, I wouldn't take. 3.5, I'd still have to at least consider a little bit, even though I probably would stay out of it.
So all those points are correct, what they've done on the road. But if you've watched their games lately, Jeff, you know that Iowa State has been struggling, especially offensively, and they got really lucky at home against BYU. BYU was the better team majority of that game. And we've kind of seen it with these other, Oklahoma and Central Florida too. They started really slow. They struggled in that first half and then found a way, which is very important. They found a way. But Jeff Fogel's newsletter, I was reading it, and he showed that in their last 4 games, Iowa State has underperformed by 8 points of what the market expected them to have. So 8 points less than what they were expected according to their point spread and everything. So makes me a little bit nervous. I didn't do anything with the side. I hoping that Iowa State finds a way and looks really good today on the road. But I went with the under here because of their defense. Also, Kansas State's 170th, somewhere around there, ranking offensively. So they've been trending a little more to the over, but that's because of their defensive issues. I just talked about Iowa State struggling offensively. So I think we're going to have a low-scoring game here. I went under that 135.
Yeah, Kansas State's defense is still pretty highly rated, 23rd in the country overall, but they have struggled of late. Kansas put 90 on them. It was a faster game, so not as egregious, but still bigger point per possession numbers than they would have liked. West Virginia, of course, put the 90 on them. BYU put 84 on them. But if you look at some of these other ones, again, lower scoring games have been the theme of the K-State. I don't mind that under at all at 135 and a half on that one for sure. All right, Villanova and Creighton. Villanova loses earlier in the week to Seton Hall. Big one for the Pirates, who I think the Pirates are safely in. I know they're on the bubble, but their resume, and they have enough quality wins, they should be in. Villanova, if you win today, you're probably going without much of a sweat, even with a loss early at MSG next week at the Big East tournament. Creighton, look, we know this Creighton team, high-end team, Final Four capabilities, at least that's what I see out of them. They beat Marquette last week. Again, Marquette was injured in that game, but Creighton handled the business, won by 14, covered all numbers. Now they're a short road favorite in Philadelphia today at the Wells Fargo Center. Alex, I'm actually going with an angle that I would not have expected here. I like this game over.
I was not expecting it either.
Which is Not what you would expect looking at the profiles of both of these teams, but the one thing that I will say with this is that even though Villanova's defensive numbers from three-point range have looked good, they are giving up a lot of open looks recently. Teams just aren't connecting on them. And I fully expect, and what does Creighton do well? They get open looks from three. If Creighton's hidden, this game's going to get played in the 70s, which gets you over that 137. I also don't mind if you take Creighton on a short money line price or laying the 1.5 as well. Villanova's a talented team. We've seen it at times. We did not see it on Wednesday. We did not see it against UConn, but we haven't seen much of talent against UConn this year. Obviously, teams have struggled immensely against the best team in the country. But I do like Creighton. I like Creighton. I like this game over as well.
I lean to Creighton, too. I think that is the right side. I respect your handicapping so much, I didn't want to go against you. So I went ahead and went with the first half under here because
okay.
I was shocked when you had the over. I didn't expect that angle. I went with first half under 64.5 here at South Point. But, I mean, you just talked about the profile of both these teams. And Villanova's defense, 13th in the country. And then we have Creighton, who has not struggled, but they shoot better at home, like most teams do. So they average 81.2 points a game overall this year and just 75 on the road. I'm expecting a slower start. Villanova, too, 12th fewest points allowed in the first half in the country. So once I saw yours, I was like, okay, this might even be a better angle for me. So under in that first half.
Going to the A10, Richmond, they've already clinched the number one seed in the A10 tournament, even with Dayton's win last night in overtime against VCU. They go to Fairfax. They're taking on George Mason. George Mason's favored in this game. It's actually as high as 2 in some places. So the one concern in this game, I do like, again, I'll take the square side. I'll take the road dog, who's the better team in this game, in Richmond. The one concern that I have, and this has been my concern all year with Richmond, and the analytic profile shows this, they're a brutal offensive rebounding team. So they can't really beat you with second chance points. And in a matchup today where you look at the numbers for George Mason, their defensive rebounding in conference play has been pretty average. So that's the one thing. Can this be the game where Richmond finally turns it a little bit on the offensive glass on the road against a very solid George Mason basketball team? But I do like Richmond as a short money line underdog here on the road. Would it shock me if this loses? No, it wouldn't, because it is not the greatest of spots for the Spiders as well.
I'm with you, though. I think that is the right side. Give me the better defense here. And Richmond is a top 30 defense in the country. So that's the way that I would definitely play it. They've also been very good on the road, 9-4 against the spread in away games. So that would be the side I would play.
All right, I want to hit South Carolina and Mississippi State here real quick because our guy Sean asked about this before the show started. So first matchup between these teams was all the way back in January, and this was before we knew South Carolina was any good. And South Carolina handled their business, won the game, covered the numbers, a home underdog in that game as an outright win. They're now on the road at the Hump in Starkville. It's 5. Total's 133.5. I really want to take South Carolina, but I don't think it's a great spot for them. Where physically beat up after that game against Tennessee, where Tennessee handled them and beat them and covered in Columbia earlier in the week. These numbers have moved at the South Point since they opened it late last night. 5, 133.5 hasn't moved, which kind of indicates to me that this number is right and it's probably a stay away.
I don't know, Jeff. This one was hard to handicap for me as well because I do think it's the right number. I was looking to back Mississippi State in this one, but they have struggled in conference play against that number. They are 6-16 ATS. And then on the flip side, South Carolina 10-2-1 against the spread on the road. So they've taken care of business, kept it very close, or even won outright 10-3 straight up on the road. So this was tough for me. I'm with you. You're kind of stuck either side. You can make a case for either team here.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we may see Chris Andrews. If we don't, we'll see him a little bit later. We'll also see Vinny Magliulo later in the show. But we have to talk about America's team, South Florida. one way or another to America's team, right? Talk about them on the road in Oklahoma today, and much more big games in Houston, Knoxville, and Durham to get to as well. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio, the perfect blend of sports,
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
comedy,
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
I am beautiful, and a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Join Ryan McCormick,
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
and host Frank Nicotero.
When I look at the clock, I go, ah! Ah!
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in. Sports by the Book is the show. South Point Studio, the site. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's here and wearing his Wolfpack shirt. Wow. What tough crowd back there, Chris Andrews.
Tough crowd back there. I thought our young little former coach, cheerleading coach, might be wearing her UNLV colors today. She's saving it for next week. And there's no guarantee these two are going to play next week.
What if I'm saving it for tomorrow to gloat a little bit after a big victory on the road?
By the way, I'm going to be off tomorrow. So. One way or the other.
Perfect.
Okay. I want to forget the points. We're not worried about points. We're gonna make a bet.
Okay.
Well, next beer, you got UNLV. I got Nevada.
You got it.
Next beer. Okay. Don't let your dad know that I took advantage of you for $5.
Hey, we got revenge here. You guys came down here, beat us at Thomas and Mack.
Alex, you should have
You were
asked.
sitting next to me at that game too, by the way. Yeah.
Alex, you should have asked for 2 for 1 there.
No. Hey, when I want your opinion.
I'm
I will. You know, we'll bring it up since you're in here. I said this on the air yesterday, and it was the first thing Alex pointed out to me when I walked in this morning. I do think the Wolfpack are the best team in this league.
Yeah,
and after last night, where, boy, if you had the San Diego State Boise under yesterday, and the way that game got to overtime, and the way that Boise won that game at overtime, and thanks to that heave at the end of the shot clock. This league, we know it's been good all year.
It really has been.
But it really does feel like at this point, all right, Utah State's handling their business probably today against New Mexico. And then the winner of the Rebel-Nevada game, I think, has a really nice path to get to the final in Vegas here next week.
Should be good. I mean, I have some friends coming to town, for that. And I might try to go to a game or two. I think it might be kind of fun to go. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I think it should be a really good tournament. Glad that it's here in Las Vegas. I'm glad that the league is really doing well. It's like a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yep.
So I think that's the case with the Mountain West this year.
I'll be there whenever I can when I'm not here, and then Jeff should be there for the.
I'll be there Thursday and Friday as of right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Saturday night is a 9:00 start, or is that a Friday?
Friday. Second game would be first game's at 6. Second game is 25 minutes after the first game.
I don't think I could make that. It's usually about my bedtime.
Well, the Saturday game, as always, middle of the afternoon. It'll be interesting to see who makes it there. And also, Chris, I'll just ask you with this, because making these futures for these conferences is a little bit not an exact science as opposed to some of these other future books that you have. And look, that'll be one of those where I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure that anyone can have a price that's shorter than 3-1. In all honesty,
in that conference,
even how jumbled they are, they all got to be started. Utah State probably's got to start at like plus 330, plus 325.
Yeah, we got them all set up right now. I mean, we'll put them in, probably Sunday, maybe Monday in some cases, but we'll see. But we got them all set, ready to go. So we're just waiting for a little more clarity on seedings and that sort of thing. So I told you were running around. You made it to the mic before we.
There was never a doubt, Chris. There's never a doubt.
I got a quick story. I love the Allman Brothers. Been to a couple concerts, and you could see like Greg Allman would be off smoking a cigarette or something like that, and you could see them finishing up the solo, and Greg would have to run back to the Hammond organ to play. I always thought they love to mess with him, So, hey, but he's the boss. What are they going to do? Anyway, I wrote down. I got some limit bets. If you're interested,
please.
Let's Georgetown plus 20.
All right.
Okay. Bama minus 14.5 and 15.
Woo. Okay.
Iona minus 14.5.
Iona's playing Siena, who is very bad.
St. Joe's minus $2 money line play.
All right.
Game that's getting a lot of action this morning. Richmond and George Mason.
Okay.
I'm all over the place here. +2, +2 on Richmond. Mason -1, -1.5. Some money line play -1/4 on Mason. But right now, I don't even know who I need in that game. That's really good two-way action there. Some money line play. Louisville +310. I know you were looking at
why.
Well, hang on. Alex was talking about playing some of these senior night games, looking at dogs. Now I don't know if you want to play the money line. You might want to look at the point, but we did get a bet. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. We did get a bet.
Oh, boy. Okay.
All right, Virginia -8.5. This is interesting.
That one, too? You aren't going to make a noise about that one?
No.
Okay.
No. I'd be more concerned about Virginia scoring 9 points. But Georgia Tech's not any good.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a guy. Now, this is a wise guy. Bet me these. Kentucky +290, Kansas +320.
Okay, so now that's interesting. We haven't gotten to either of those games yet. Yeah. We discussed them yesterday on the show.
We did, yeah.
Right now, Kentucky, actually, they bet Kentucky on the spread also, 7.5 on that, and they took the hook with Kansas. It's down to 8. That's very interesting because, and you said it's one of your sharper bettors as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
That did that. I have no problem with either of those shots.
Oh, I don't either.
Just because with Kentucky, we talked about them yesterday. Alex and I have talked about them all year. When you have a team that has that high of variance, and we've already seen it this year, where they went to Auburn, similar situation, won as a dog around this price they are against Tennessee, and they're also capable of losing by 15 because they can't get stopped. Exactly. So I think that's a good variance play. And for Kansas, we talked about it yesterday. Houston's banged up. Houston's pretty banged up right now, especially in that front court.
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, I think a guy made some pretty decent plays. I mean, got some good numbers, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think if you're out, you're not a professional bettor, you want to have a little bit of fun, I'd bet both these on the money line. I think you got a good shot. And, throw in a little bit on a little 2-team parlay. That would come back.
Be a nice little payoff if it wins.
I'm not telling you the pros should do that, but if you're just messing around here, or we are towards the end of the season, you want to throw a couple bucks, whatever your throwaway unit might be.
Pizza money, as they say.
Yeah, $20, $100, whatever it might be. I think that, it'd be a nice little return for two pretty live dogs.
Yes.
And two pretty damn good teams.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, again, you don't see Kansas that big of an underdog almost ever in any circumstance.
No.
We've already talked about it a little bit yesterday. If they lose, they are locked in, regardless of what seed they get, to being the lowest seed they've ever been under Bill Self in the Big 12 tournament. They already have the most losses they've ever had in a conference year with Bill Self, but they're still going to be a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. Just shows how high the standard is for that program.
Well, my daughter, who's going through a divorce right now, but she was married to a Kansas grad. So for the last dozen years or so, I've been rooting for Kansas.
Yeah.
And I mean, they have a great program. They really do. I like them in football too, and I think they finally got the right coach.
Lance Leipold's your guy.
Yeah, I love the guy. I liked him when he went to Buffalo out of, where was he, Whitewater.
Wisconsin Whitewater.
Yeah,
multiple-time D3 champion.
Okay, a couple more plays
Please.
here, and then I'll let you guys go. Duke, I know I told you last night, Jeff, I like the other side, and but they bet me Duke.
Okay.
Okay, then some of the smaller games, well, not for the particular school. Stony Brook, they laid me 1 and 1.5.
Go Seawolves.
Like
Idaho, they laid 1.5. They laid $1.45. And Idaho State.
Yeah, Idaho was on the list. Yeah.
Yeah, Idaho State, they laid 4.
That was also on the list.
2 quick plays. Monmouth, they laid 5. Northeastern +2. So that's those are limit bets by the time I.
So actually, that Stony Brook Northeastern game is a whole bunch of two-way. Actually.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's a huge two-way game then, based off of that.
Yeah, I was just charting them when they went, and I forgot they were playing each other. So.
Yeah, no, that's a later game in the conference tournament. I like Stony Brook in that game, but I can see the argument for the Huskies.
What time's that game go?
Oh, I think it's a 4. I think it's a 4.
Oh, that's great because we got some
I
good
think it's a late
two-way
game.
action already. That's fantastic.
3 o'clock.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I think today's going to be a fun day.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really do. I think it's going to be a great day of basketball.
Me too.
It always is around this time of year.
It really is. Yeah.
And then next week, the true chaos really begins with that week of only conference tournaments.
But I kind of like Alex's angle. I think, now, I mean, I'm not saying about Louisville, but some of these teams, if you're looking for maybe value on a home dog, I'll tell you, Louisville plus the points might not be a bad play. You know what I mean? Listen, I've seen it come into play a couple times. These kids, I mean, they are Division I recruits. Maybe they play out of their mind one game on senior night. You know, who knows?
Well, and then from the flip side, even look last night, SDSU, it was their senior night at home. You're getting points with this good Boise team.
Yeah.
And they go in there and wreck their night, right? So I do like the points there if you're on the road and
Yeah.
It was a weird week in the Mountain West senior night wise because Boise, you mentioned it, got whacked by Nevada in their senior night earlier in the week.
Well, by the way, Nevada tonight is retiring JaVale McGee's number.
Oh,
He had played for Nevada for a couple
of
years. He's a great athlete. He has a couple championship rings, at least one. I'm not sure about a couple.
I think he has 2.
I think he does have 2. He's a pretty volatile player, but we're very proud of him coming out of Nevada.
JaVale McGee is 3.
3 rings?
He was on 2 of the Golden State teams.
He was on 2 of them?
I had forgotten that he was on 2 of them. I knew he was on the pandemic Lakers, 2020 Lakers. I'd forgotten that he was on the 17 Warriors.
Yeah.
I knew he was on the 18.
He was a good rim protector always.
You know what?
He really was.
He's still in the league, Chris.
Is he still in the league?
He's still in the league.
Jeez, man.
So that's a 15-year career for JaVale McGee.
I'll tell you, that's more than a cup of coffee, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
All right, I'm going to let you guys carry on. Great job so far. And I'm sure we'll have a lot more limit bets. I don't think I'm going to run them up to you, but you guys take
you can tell Vincenzo.
Who's he?
Oh, who's he? Oh, that guy that looks like De Niro.
Yeah, right.
Do you think the Rebels and the Wolfpack will be one of the most bet games today?
8:30 tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of two-way action there.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'll see you later.
Appreciate it. Chris Andrews, everyone. All right, we'll take a quick break ourselves. When we come back, don't worry, Sean. I can stretch out the tease. You're good. When we get back into the slate of the day with South Florida. I'm going to be going against them, which might be at my own peril. And, of course, those big games coming later in the day as well. That's next. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, 777s, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's alongside. We'll have Maolio in a little bit. Well, it's be good to chat with Vincenzo. Let's go to South Florida and Tulsa here, which is on the move. On the move. Up to 5.5 now in this game. Recent move from 4.5 to 5.5. South Florida favored on the road in Oklahoma. I like the Golden Hurricane of Tulsa. Now, this is a fade of South Florida. This is not because I think Tulsa's any good. They're not. But at some point, South Florida has to not cover a game because during this winning streak, they're basically covering every game on top of winning all these games, which has just been a cash cow if you've been laying the Bulls or taking with the Bulls through this win streak. I do like the 5.5 with Tulsa. I even consider a small sprinkle on the money line at plus 190. I'd consider it. I don't know if that will get there, but plus 5.5. I think that is good on Tulsa here. And if South Florida beats me again, so be it. They beat us the whole time this year.
I'm going to keep writing. I'm going to keep hanging out on my island here in South Florida.
Okay.
I laid the points with South Florida, but I actually took it overnight, and it did get down to 4.5. So you have other people that are jumping on the points here with Tulsa and like this. My handicap's a little different. We're going to get to a game later, a very big matchup that Chris was talking about, where I'm on the same side as you, where I think it's a little inflated, and I'm selling high with them. But South Florida, they don't have that. They can't afford a loss, Jeff. Like you said, they might not be in the tournament unless they win outright. So I think they're going to keep moving here. I was okay with the 5.5, so love the 4.5. I'd still bet it at 5.5 here. But I think they're going to keep going here. 13-2 and 2 ATS in conference. Just need one more here at Tulsa. And Tulsa, I mean, they're out of the top 200 offensively, about 250.
Bad team. They're not a good team,
154 defensively, but yeah, I understand that angle. I'm going to keep riding this South Florida.
All right, let's keep it moving. We're both on Charlotte today as an underdog against ECU. I don't want to talk much about this. We think we're both in the camp of the wrong team is favored in this game.
Agreed.
It is a difficult road spot. ECU has been much better of late, but I think we're both on the Niners because I thought that they should have been a small favorite in this game. They come a small dog now. They're up to 2 at some spots, Alex.
I agree. And East Carolina is by far the worst offense in the AAC. So kind of a fade on that. And like you said, Charlotte should be the favorite here.
Now for some better games. Kentucky on the road at Tennessee. Primo in Knoxville. Vols have already wrapped up the number 1 seed in the regular season title in the Southeastern Conference. Kentucky playing some great basketball right now. And it's because they've gone back to hey, we're just going to bludgeon you with our offense. And they have. They've done it to everyone. 117, 91, 111, 93 the last 4 times out. Now, the first matchup between these two teams was back on February the 3rd, and Tennessee beat Kentucky at their own game. Put 103 on them. They beat them 103-92. Now the game's in Knoxville. Kentucky's plus 260 on the money line as a dog. 7.5 down from 8. Total's up to 167. I think you just have to keep riding it. Know the total's been bet over. Still think it's good. Expect this game to be paced into the mid-70s at a bare minimum. Both of these offenses are – look, Tennessee's offense is really good. There's no arguing that anymore. Right. They are a really good offense. And their defense, yes, they are better on defense, but the willingness to run in this game will be there for Tennessee, and I'm not sure anyone's stopping Kentucky's offense at the moment unless they just stop making shots. Over, and we'll take the points with the Cats here, Alex, even at the worst number at 7.5. Still think it's good. I think it's fine down to 6.
Ooh, after we've been talking, I think I am going to play Kentucky on the money line a little bit here as well. I did take the 8 overnight, even though it's against my numbers. So I do have Tennessee as a 9.5-point favorite here at home. I just think they just played the last 3 games were the best games that they played all season. Tennessee on the road at Alabama, on the road at South Carolina, and then they beat Auburn, of course. Playing very good, but they also just clinched the championship, regular season championship. So I think this is a good time where you can get points with a really good Kentucky team that has that has a lot of talent on that team. They're also 8-3-1 against the spread on the road, and you mentioned it, they're just outscoring opponents. I think they can hang in this one. So I like the points as well, and I'm going to sprinkle a little on the money line.
Let's keep it going here with the other primo game at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. Kansas on the road at Houston. You don't see KU this big of a dog very often, but here they are. The bettors have taken it from 8.5 to 8. Houston's still favored. They are banged up in the front court, Alex. I'll take the points with Kansas. I don't think they're going to win the game. I really don't. I just don't think in the end, going on the road, they have enough depth to win this game. But there's no reason they can't keep this game within 8. And for Houston, already a regular season title wrapped up. It's a very big deal for them going up in leagues from the American to the Big 12 and coming in right away and winning what a lot of people consider to be the best league in the country. But this is a lot of points. You don't see it very often. And look, if Houston beats you, so be it. That's kind of the way I'll take this game, and we'll take the 8 with KU.
I haven't played anything in this one yet. I do think taking the points is the smart side. Both teams lack depth right now, but Houston, with these injuries that we've seen, they have looked very beatable in their last 3 games. I think Oklahoma almost upset them. And then their last game, lucky to pull out the win in that one as well. So I don't mind it. I think the right side of this is taking the points with Kansas.
Florida and Vanderbilt. I only want to bring this up for one reason here, Alex. Do you think, even with Vanderbilt's offense being a unit that's not particularly good, didn't matter, got the Kentucky game over earlier in the week. We know Florida wants to play fast when they're right. This would only be a look at the total here, which has been bet over from 151 to 152 here behind us. The other question is, would we consider taking a shot on Vanderbilt plus the points as well at home? Memorial Gymnasium is a bizarre place to play, as we know. And for Florida, where, look, they're playing pretty well. They aren't coming off a huge win earlier in the week, though. So there is the letdown capabilities here after that 18-point win against Alabama earlier in the week.
I made the game 9.5.
Okay, so right on it.
I didn't take any points, but I actually liked the under in this one.
Oh, okay.
I made it 145. I went under 151.5, so actually a bad number here. It's moving the opposite direction. Florida won the first one, 77-64, just a few weeks ago. But Vandy, while they play fast offensively, their possessions aren't very high for tempo. So, they play slow. That's right. They play slow offensively, Vandy. So they're going to try and slow it down here at home. But Florida is the one that plays fast offensively, slows it way down on defense. I went under this, but who knows? We could get a lot of possessions in this one and go over, but nothing on the side for me.
Marquette and Xavier up next. We know there's injuries on the Marquette side. Tyler Kolek, if he does play, is going to be compromised today. Missed the last few games due to injury. I'm going to be honest with you. Even if Kolek were to go today, which it sure looks like he's not going to, I'd still think this number is too short. Even though it's gotten bet up, it's up to 3 now. I don't think Xavier's a team to take advantage of that injury. And the one thing I will say with Marquette in these 2 games without Kolek, all right, he's missed Creighton and Connecticut. You mentioned the 2 best teams in the league.
Right.
Now you're playing a lesser foe. Yes, it's on the road. Yes, Xavier, again, they're not going in the NCAA tournament unless if they win in Madison Square Garden next week at the Big East tournament. But I'm still, even with no Kolek, I'm a little surprised that this is this short. I still think you're good, even though it's moved up on Marquette.
I do too. I definitely think Marquette is the right side. I laid the 1.5.
Good job.
I'm okay here, still at 3. Xavier 1-5 against the spread in their last 5. Also giving up an average of 78 points a game. They gave up 93 to Georgetown. So their defense has not been playing very good here, and I think Marquette needs this get-right game, even with missing a few players.
TCU hosting Central Florida in the Big 12. TCU is 8. Central Florida, gritty cover in the end against Houston earlier in the week, even though they did their best to give it away. But they got the cover. That's all that matters. TCU, very erratic. Very erratic. They're going to go to the NCAA tournament. They just have too many good wins to even be close to the bubble at this point. They beat Houston. They beat Oklahoma. They won at Baylor. They beat Texas Tech. They have more than enough. They're better wins than Oklahoma has. So you're going to be there. 8, the number 142. I thought these numbers are both right, Alex. I didn't do anything on this game.
I went ahead and grabbed the points with the dog here, even on the road. Okay. UCF has been very competitive, especially against the good teams. Lost by 2 at BYU. Texas Tech only by 7.
Beat
Iowa
Kansas.
State beat Kansas, yes. And then, so I think even in their losses, they're hanging around in these games. They're 11-6 against the spread in conference. And they have a really good defense, 9th best defense in the country around that ranking. So I think that they can hang in this one, and 8 points is just way too many.
Central Florida, 1 road win in conference. That came in Austin against Texas back on January the 17th. I want nothing to do with this game. I thought these numbers were fine. I don't mind your play at all, because that would probably be the only way I would even possibly look in a game like this would be to the underdog. All right, Colorado's on the road in Corvallis to take on Oregon State here. Beavers earlier in the week took Utah out. At least to me, should end Utah's at-large chances, but who knows? They seemingly are higher, according to the bracketologists, than I have them at. Colorado got a humongous win in Eugene, winning at Oregon, probably putting them right there at the moment. Get to the semifinal in Vegas. You're probably good if you're the Buffs, especially if you're losing to Arizona. With that said, today, 8's too much. I do like Oregon State plus the points. Can't quite get there outright at almost 3-1, but 8 points I think is too much. Been a difficult place to play at times for teams up at Gill Coliseum. We've already seen Arizona go down there. We know Utah went down there earlier in the week. 8 points is too much. I think that this is a good take with the home dog to at least cover this number with the Beavs.
We do have the revenge factor here. Colorado won the first one 90-57 at home. Very competitive in that one. But I think the number's right at 8. But with your angle of Colorado kind of having a letdown after that big win, I could see why you would take the points with the home dog here.
Alex, you been in Louisville?
I am not.
Okay, we're not going to bother with that. Boston College 4.5-point favorites on the road against Louisville in that one. All right, back to the Ivy League. You texted me about this game last night. I didn't do anything because I thought the numbers were fine. Princeton 6 on the road at the Palestra against Penn. Princeton wins. They're the 1 seed in the Ivy League tournament, which would mean a game against Brown as opposed to having to play Cornell, which humongous difference in how your route to an Ivy League championship goes. Be a double-digit favorite on a neutral against Brown would not be that against Cornell. It would probably be like 4 or 5 against Cornell on a neutral. 6.5 down to 6, 141.5 here at the South Point. I think these numbers are all fair. Difficult place to play in the Palestra as always, even though Penn is not particularly good this year.
I like the favorite here, even going on the road. Like you said, big stakes here, playing for that 1 seed, and Princeton's been really good this year. I mean, 13-11 on the season, but 11-3 in conference play straight up. Yeah, I think they can cover this number, even in a tough place to play.
How about a good one in Lubbock? Baylor on the road at Texas Tech. Texas Tech 2 at home with a total of 147. Alex, this would only be a consideration on the home favorite here. I would consider Texas Tech. Great home court there in West Texas. I'm going to stay out of it, though, because I do think there is a decided talent advantage for Baylor. So this is a pass that probably will have some in-game angles potentially for me.
See, my first reaction was the wrong team was favored here. Comparing it to my line as well, I have Baylor as 1 point favorite even on the road. But you're right. It's a good spot for Texas Tech. They have the revenge. Baylor won the first one, 79-73. I just don't trust them. I think Baylor is the much more talented team.
Big one for Wake Forest. If they're going to have any shot of getting into the tournament with a win today and a deep run in the ACC tournament, might be enough to get them there. 3.5 against Clemson, 149.5. Alex, I did not want to touch this game with a 10-foot pole. I want nothing to do with either of these teams that I don't trust one bit. Clemson safely in the NCAA tournament. They're probably going to be a 5 or a 6 seed when it's all said and done. Wake had the golden opportunity, and then after the win against Duke, they've totally blown that opportunity with losses to teams they have no business losing to.
I think we're going to see a big effort here from Clemson. They're sitting at the 4 seed right now in the ACC. Top 4 get a double bye. They have Pittsburgh right behind them, who is a 7-point favorite today at home. So they're going to show up today trying to win this game against Wake. I took the 3.5 with Clemson. They're playing much better defense in their last 5 games, holding teams to 38% and under. So yeah, I like Clemson here on the road getting the points.
Last one I want to get before we bring our guy Vincenzo in. Georgia on the road at Auburn. Big rivalry game, but mismatch. Auburn 15, total 151 here, Alex. Nothing? I will say, I just have to double check my list. I thought I put the over. Yeah, I put the over on in this game. The question is just going to be, can Georgia get me enough points to get this game over? That's what it's going to come down to. Because Auburn getting in the 80s, I think, is very much in play here. I just need to get Georgia into a scenario where either A, we're giving up 90 plus to Auburn,
right,
which could happen. Which then, if we get Auburn in the 90s, it's going to be hard to lose this game if you bet the over 151. But if you get Auburn to like 83, Georgia's got to score their part. Got to get themselves into the high 60s if we're going to get there. So we'll see. 83 to 68 would be a fun final score when it's all said and done. Right on that number, if we were to get it. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back, Duke, Carolina on Tobacco Road. Vinny Magliulo will tell us how that game's been bet. And also, Missouri Valley unders. They've been good. Are they still worth it today? We'll tell you about it next. Sports by the Buck.
South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book. South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's here. Vinny Magliulo. Casual Saturday.
Casual.
Look at you.
That's right.
It's a nice button up.
Thank you.
It's a great shirt. Hey, look, Vinny looks great in black. We've established this over the years.
Johnny Cash. Elvis. Right? Jerry Glanville.
Jerry Glanville.
Speaking of Elvis.
Very good. Very good, Jerry Glanville. That's if you have the Jerry Glanville mention on the show today, cash that at plus,
That's right.
plus 50,000.
Right. Out of football season even.
Yeah, Jerry Glanville. Jeez. All right.
My favorite, by the way, Jerry Glanville one. Son, this is the NFL, which stands for not for long.
Yeah.
I love that.
Jerry Glanville was in the XFL, I think, in recent years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in his blood.
He's still with us, right?
As far as I know.
Yeah, Jerry Glanville is still with us. The most recent team Jerry Glanville coached. Oh, he's actually the defensive coordinator of the Northwestern Oklahoma State Rangers.
There you go.
Northwestern Oklahoma State Rangers. D2. There you go. In Alva, Oklahoma. I can tell you I've not been there. All right, Vinny.
Go ahead.
I want to start with Duke, Carolina.
Okay.
Because we got the other big games. Chris was in here discussing those as well earlier. They bet Duke.
They bet Duke.
Up to 5.
But laid the 4.5 and now sitting at 5, Jeff. Yeah. I don't really think it's a surprise. I mean, payback, right? And last game of the regular season, Duke, seeding at involved here, right, for the ACC tournament coming up. So, and I would say that Kentucky's probably been the more consistent team there for the season. Their body of work.
Or Carolina.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Duke has, kind of been up and down, or up recently, right? Playing better since the loss at Wake Forest. So, no real surprise here that they laid the 4.5 with Duke. But I think overall it'll be a really good two-way betting game. Positioned nicely too in terms of time at 3:30 Pacific.
I'm glad you used the word payback. I can start rotating that in instead of revenge all the time. I like it. I went with Duke here. I laid the 4.5.
Okay.
They've been playing really good. Like you said, they've shot over 47% in their last 8 games. They're 8-1 straight up in their last 9. Only lost to Wake Forest, who happened to shoot 60% from the field that game. So I think Duke will be ready here at home.
Say the phrase, Vinny.
Two-way action.
Yeah, I'm on Carolina.
There we go.
Yeah, I just
two-way at the desk.
think they're a better team. I think that's just all it comes down to. Now, I'm not saying Duke isn't going to win the game. Don't want the money line. I just want the points here with North Carolina. It would not shock me if Duke wins this game by 2 or 3. You can play 8 on 5 in Cameron Indoor every once in a while. So wouldn't shock me if that came into play on that one later today. All right. Vinny, before we get back to the regularly scheduled games that we already knew coming into today, I just want to ask you about the Missouri Valley Conference, where
the
we
totals?
have 8 games so far, 7 unders for the full game, 7 unders for the first half. The only game that had the overs was actually the UIC game 2 days ago against Southern Illinois. Both the first half and the full game went over, in part because it went double overtime.
I was going to say, you had a little bonus time there, right?
But I don't know what happens to these teams because Indiana State's this awesome offensive juggernaut. Took them a while to get going. Missouri State kind of faltered. It looked like for a time there that game was going to find a way to go over. It didn't come close. Drake, another good offensive team. The opponent didn't help them yesterday. Evansville couldn't score. It's just one of those where it's kind of it's really an anomaly more than anything because that building, when that building has NCAA tournament games, and I did a little research on this, those totals are pretty normal. It's pretty close to what normal total numbers would be towards over and unders. And then you have this tournament where, historically speaking, especially over the last 8 years, has just been an underfest.
Well, I think there's a couple of things when you look at it. I'm not saying teams really change their style, but they look a little tighter, maybe a little bit more defensive-minded because of the time of year. And obviously that's a coaching decision, or it's driven by coaching. But also, look, you know what? Just not shooting as well either, right? I mean, so when you look at it, I'm not going to say that teams are changing their style of play, particularly this late in the season, but some adjustments, I think, but it's kind of clustered in this case, up and down the conference. But then you might get a couple of games, these 2 games today. So you have Northern Iowa, Indiana State, and Bradley and Drake. You know what? They might fly over today, too. So
They very well may.
I mean, it's hard to say, Jeff. It might just be an anomaly, as you pointed out, too. But, to try to figure it out, I don't think you want to dwell on it too much. Maybe you either pass, you wait for some in-game, but just take note of it and say, well, if the same thing happens today, and let's say in the final, then did the coaches, did these teams adjust their style a bit? For the winner who's going to go, a week from tomorrow is going to get announced with the bid. But I don't think it's something that you really are going to dwell too much on. There's so many other games and things to pay attention to. It's not going to be like this multi bid league that it's. I would pay a lot closer attention to it long term or longer term if it was one of the Power Sixes.
Jeff, which one of those 2 do you like more? The under.
Which one do I like more? I like the Bradley one under
Yeah.
more. Just the more conducive style from Bradley. Even though I will say I also like Drake as well in that game. I know.
So favorite and under.
Favorite and under. I know that we like to say the old cliche, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. Mm-hmm. Not when you match up poorly with the opponent. Mm-hmm. Or you get what I'm saying.
Sure.
When the team that loses matches up poorly with the team that wins. I just think Drake matches up great with Bradley. We've seen it twice so far this year where they won in Peoria pretty handily earlier in February. Last weekend, Drake handled their business, won in Des Moines with relative ease. I just like this Bulldog squad more. The other game, look, as always with Indiana State, the way they want to play fast and they want to play offense first. So there's always a hesitation with that. Now, the flip side of that, by the way, it is still amazing to me that Ben Jacobson never got a different job and is still there in Cedar Falls. Again, Farouk Manesh was 15 years ago now. How crazy is that?
That long.
15 years.
That's especially in the smaller conferences or the mid-majors as well. That's like 2 or 3 times in one of the Power Six conferences.
The Farouk Manesh one,
right?
Yeah.
The Farouk Manesh one was 2010, so 14 years. It was the 2010 tournament which Alex knows. The footnote in history is that Northern Iowa beat UNLV in that first game before
Ouch.
the big upset against Kansas. Sorry, but no, it's that's why I like the Bradley one more. Just because Indiana State, and again, there was a part of the second half yesterday. I was like, whoa! I thought because Vinny, I tried the middle yesterday. Got a little greedy on that first game.
It's okay. You could do that.
So I gave a little bit back on that under. But
We'll get it back today.
Indiana State, we'll play. By the way, if we get Indiana State Drake tomorrow,
Good
what
game.
a basketball game
Good
that's
game.
going to be
Yes.
tomorrow in St.
Right.
Louis. If we get that, and you know what? Quite frankly, no disrespect to the Panthers of Northern Iowa. Even if Bradley were to upset Drake, we'd still get a great game with Indiana State and Bradley
so.
as well.
You
The
know,
Bradley
to-
team is good.
To your point, what you want to watch too are with these conferences, the smaller conferences and the mid majors. Look for styles of play.
Yeah.
For the winners when they get to the NCAA tournament, and then depending on who they're matched up with, then look at one of the bigger teams and the higher seeds with how they played a team within their conference, or how the games went with a similar style, right? So let's say here's a good point. Right? Indiana State, you know that they like to get up and down the court, okay? Well, if they go up against, let's say they advance to the tournament and they go up against a team from the SEC, okay? Well, how did the team from the SEC? What was their style of play? But how did they play against Alabama, which is an
How they play against Kentucky?
How they play against Kentucky? So, style of play is something that you want to pay attention to right? Because you have so much familiarity with the Power Six, and again, I use Power Six in college basketball because of Big East. Those are things that you want to start kind of garnering out of these games, even if you're not going to play them, but to look ahead to a week from tomorrow on Selection Sunday to see how these teams get matched up. Great points. Thank you, Alex.
I want to go back to UConn real quick.
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter what the matchup is for them. They seemingly handle every style great. They're a big favorite on the road at Providence. It's 9.5. It was actually 10 for a little bit. So they have taken the points with the Friars. 140.5. You know, it's a tricky spot for UConn where one seed's wrapped up for the NCAA tournament. One seed's wrapped up for the Big East tournament in MSG next week. Providence is as bubble as it gets right now, where a win against UConn just matters so much to Providence potentially sneaking in the back door and getting into the NCAA tournament. This is a very tricky handicap. At least for me, I didn't touch this game because 10 was right, 9.5 is right, but there are some other factors in here on this final day of the regular season.
Well, I think desperate teams with points are especially if they're double-digit points. I think that's a key factor. To your point, Providence, I think, surprised a lot of people at the beginning of the season. The way they started, and even for me personally, I looked at their power rating. I had to make a pretty good adjustment up for their power rating after that first month of the season. But you know what? They've come back to the to what we thought I think they were going to be. So now, yes, a bubble team. But hey, listen, give them credit for the way the way they've played this season. I think a lot of folks thought that Providence was certainly going to be in a complete rebuild. Ed Cooley now obviously at Georgetown, so a coaching change. But I give them credit for what they did. But current form is certainly going to come into play here, and a win today against the Huskies is really gonna help them a lot. And but I think they'll probably need a couple of wins in the Big East tournament as well.
Yeah, that's what kept me off of this, really. I think UConn could have been favored here by 12, even on the road. But, I mean, like you said, desperate team. They also hung in there the first time they played UConn. They shot 41% from the field, held the Huskies to 40%. They still lost by 9, so that makes me a little nervous as well, grabbing the points even. So, stay away from me.
The scary thing about Connecticut is that, even with the 3 key graduations from last year's team, Connecticut made that great run, right? And again, this is when you want to be playing your best ball, and that's when they made their run last year all the way to the title. This team's better than last year. I mean, I think they're more balanced. They've
more
got
consistent
good pedigree, and no doubt about it, inside and outside. And they've got a swagger about them too, which that's their attitude says a lot about a team. And, obviously their coaching is solid. So for the folks out there looking at this and at the tournament, I mean, I'm not anointing them as a back-to-back, but certainly a contender. And let's say they lose today. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to knock them out of a number 1 seed.
Oh, I think they're locked.
I mean, let's say if they lose today and they lose in the first round in their first game of the Big East tournament,
I still think they're fine.
And the reason that it's probably safe is because when you look at the other teams, and because it's them and Purdue, right? And Arizona and Houston are close. Outside of those 4, somebody's really going to have to be impressive and win out, including I'm talking about a Power 6 school like a Tennessee. Could a Tennessee supplant one of those 4?
If Tennessee wins out, and even
somebody slips.
If Arizona, I think at this point, UConn, Purdue, Houston, I think they could lose their next 2, and they're all getting 1 seed still. Really do think that. Arizona, on the other hand,
probably the most vulnerable.
If Arizona doesn't win the Pac-12 championship, and Tennessee, even if let's say Tennessee lost today, but then ran the table in Nashville, I think Tennessee would still hop them. Actually,
they could.
Yeah.
But
that's where I think, and also
North Carolina.
You beat me to the punch.
UNC,
and I know Duke isn't there, but if UNC wins out and beats Duke 3 times when it's all said and done, UNC could steal that fourth number one as well.
So
all in play on that. All right, Mountain West time. I know Alex has been waiting all day for this.
Finally.
New Mexico.
Did Chris come and see you, Alex?
He did.
Yes, we have a bet.
You have action,
which is nice.
I know who Chris took. So
he didn't give me any points. Can you believe it? I didn't try very hard.
No, you
I just said okay.
You're 6-point favorites. He didn't give you any points.
None. Can you believe
Chrissy,
it?
I know you're watching right now, but my goodness.
I have faith in the Rebels. You're with me, right?
Listen, you kidding me? I paid enough tuition. I should be. Yeah, I already paid. I already paid this bet many times.
We'll get to that game in a second. We got to start with the one that will influence if that game in Reno is for a share of the Mountain West title or not. Utah State, again,
Mexico.
What an amazing job by Danny Sprinkle, basically having to redo the whole roster.
Yep.
And here Utah State is safely in the NCAA tournament with a win today against New Mexico. They're going to be the number 1 seed here in Las Vegas next week. New Mexico, on the other hand, has played themselves squarely onto the bubble for the second consecutive year after another great non-con against mediocre competition. And quite frankly, if they had just beaten Air Force, they would be safely in right now.
Yeah,
that's
going to haunt them.
Yeah, that's why this is so tight as it is. 3.5 was 3 yesterday when we talked about it a little bit on the show, Vinny.
It was 4. We opened at 4.
You opened at 4. Some of the other openers were at 3. I like the Aggies here. I actually forgot to put this on my list earlier in the day. I don't like New Mexico away from the pit.
Away from home.
And look, yes, they've won some road games in conference. They had a great win in Reno a few weeks ago. But the other road wins are against the bottom feeders. They beat Air Force, they beat San Jose State, and they beat Wyoming. You're supposed to win those games on the road if you're an NCAA tournament quality team, even with the elevation in 2 of those spots. I think Utah State's just a lot better, especially with the game in Logan. I'll very happily lay it with the Ags here.
Utah State, definitely a surprise. Going into the season, did not figure them to be as good as they've turned out. It wasn't just a good start. They've been very consistent all season long. And this is one of the reasons why the Mountain West is going to have as many bids as they're going to have. I mean, I know some projections have them with 6 bids. I think, that might be a stretch. Would it shock me? Not really, because, again, you look at the at the rating of this, and again, I'm not talking about the rankings. I'm talking about power ratings. This is as good a conference as there is. I think certainly more bids than the Pac-12, and some teams in the Big East have played their way back into the discussion, including like St. John's. But they're going to be right there with the Big East. I think they're going to be right there with the ACC, really, too. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. This is a bigger game for New Mexico. To your point, Jeff, no doubt about it.
2-way action again. I grabbed the 4 points though overnight when I saw it, and mostly just because the Mountain West is so all over the place, and any team could win any given night. I think these two are pretty evenly matched. Utah State, second best offense in the conference. New Mexico right under them at 3. And then defensively, I mean, Utah State drops down there a little bit. And if you've really seen that in their last 5 games, they've given up an average of 68 points. So I think anything can happen here. I think New Mexico can keep it close. It's a very important game for them, and they could win outright. So
more dangerous, more desperate, I should say. So, like I said, it's a bigger game for the Lobos here for sure.
All right, to the winless, hapless teams here real quick. DePaul and Mizzou, both the only Power 5 plus Big East without conference wins. Alex, what did I have on my list? I said seeding all 22.5, which is, oh boy, I don't love laying that type of lumber in conference, but DePaul has given up on top of being terrible. You're at 23 right now on this game.
I watched.
Which Vinny, the folks took the ball off the opener here. It was 23.5. They took the ball down to 23.
Well, I think they laid 20 in some other spots. But I just look at this. I watched them the other day, by the way, against St. John's.
Okay.
Just to say, God, what happened with this program? What's gone?
Well, it's been over a decade now.
They're awful. I mean,
for lack of a better word,
it's just they're you watch them and you just say, look, it's either a pass or you're gonna lay a price, but you're paying such a premium now as well. So it's difficult. And I watch. I mean, St. John's absolutely. I mean, they were up, I think, by 30 at halftime the other day, and I just said, wow, this is. But it's been that way all year. There are some teams that have been consistently good all year, right? And the teams we already mentioned, like the teams that are fighting for number one or going to position themselves as number one seeds. There are some teams that have just been consistently bad, and this is going to wind up being a complete rebuild, which is surprising. You look at DePaul, and based in Chicago, you would think that they would be able to just get better players, not just recruiting wise, but the transfer portal as well. You could go there and really be impactful, but not happening.
Nothing for me in that game.
Mizzou and LSU would only be a take on the dog in this game. I'm probably not going to get there. Leaning into it for myself and Jim Root, as we talked about a little bit.
Trying to get a conference win.
No, look, get the loss today, win 2 games in Nashville will be a funnier outcome, in all honesty. But not much of anything on that game. I want to pass on Northwestern and Minnesota, even though I will say again, Northwestern, check that injury report before you make a wager on this game. Northwestern still Nicholson, their starting center, doesn't look like he'll go, but still a possibility. Didn't look like you're going to have Langborn earlier in the week against Michigan State, and he ended up playing. And Northwestern covered that game fairly easily as a 9-point underdog, losing in East Lansing. So keep a look on that injury report before you place a wager on Minnesota and Northwestern in Evanston, final game of the regular season for both of those teams. BYU 13.5 against Oklahoma State. Alex, this is solely just a hopeful play for me. 13.5, I'll take it with Oklahoma State, even though I fully expect BYU to win by 25. I also like this game over as well. I expect BYU's offense to do whatever they want in this game. Remember, Oklahoma State beat them in Stillwater.
They did.
So this is a revenge spot for the Cougars back at home on Senior Day
and I was
for
going to
BYU.
say Senior Day's big emotion, especially in the first half of these games.
All right, 2 more to get to. Arizona's aided USC. I thought those numbers were right.
Yes.
Total 163. USC's been a monumental disappointment this year with all that talent they brought in. I know Collier got hurt for a chunk of it, but still should have been better. Arizona, my thoughts on Arizona.
I've been playing Arizona the last 2 or 3 games, laying the points.
Yeah.
Got it done on Thursday.
They have been blowing teams out here down the stretch.
Arizona, remember, they started the season extremely well, including that big win in Cameron against Duke. So they have played, to Alex's point, which is important, they have played really well in the last couple of weeks. They've played better than Washington State, who's beaten them twice this year. So pay attention to Arizona because, again, right now, if they keep playing the way they're playing and winning these games and, get deep into the Pac-12 tournament here in Las Vegas next week, then, they should be a number 1, no worse than a number 2 seed.
Shots are going in, though, so that really helps. Yeah. They've been shooting very well.
All right, Alex, the floor is yours. UNLV, Nevada. If Utah State were to lose, the winner of this game would get a share of the Mountain West title with Utah State and Boise, who beat San Diego State last night. If not,
this on the road, by the way, last
night.
In
Viejas in overtime.
That was a good game.
Winner of this game will, again, better seeding in play in the Mountain West tournament. A win for this team. Realistically, the winner of this game will get to 3.
Right.
Actually, if Nevada wins, they'll get to 2 because of tiebreakers. But more importantly, I think, is if you get to 4, you're going to have to play San Diego State right away, which is a pretty brutal draw for a 4-5. as opposed to the 2. Yeah, you might get Colorado State. You might get New Mexico. But I would rather take my chances with one of those teams as opposed to taking San Diego State right away. Nevada's 6 tonight, 134.5.
And that's why, so going back to what you said earlier where you said you think Nevada's the best team in the conference.
I do.
When you said that, I'm watching that game. I think SDSU is still the best, even though they have found a way to lose 2 in a row here down the stretch. But thinking about that, SDSU is the last team I want UNLV to have to face for the first game in the tournament. And I think that's because they found a way to shut down Ladie, and I don't know if they can do that 2 games in a row. And Boise kind of did last night, but not really. He still had a fantastic game, so I think they're definitely the most dangerous team in the conference. Looking at this game, 6 points is way too many. I would take the points here with the Rebels. Even on the road, they have their revenge. They found a way to slow it down, get Nevada out of their comfort zone here in the Thomas and Mack. I think they can do that there. One of my biggest concerns is Nevada is the best 3-point shooting team in the conference by far. So I went to look, see if that was our flaw against the Wolfpack, but UNLV's 4th best team at defending the 3. So I think they're going to be okay. They're the 3rd best points in the paint. UNR 2nd fewest in the conference. So as long as UNLV is getting their rebounds, which Chris mentioned yesterday as well, suffered in that area in the first game. Got to get those offensive rebounds, and they'll be just fine to hang around in this one, if not pull off the upset.
So you didn't get 6 with Chrissy. Did he give you 2 to 1 on the money line?
No, that's what I said. That's what I said. And Chris, that's what I said. I said you should have gotten 2 to 1.
Man drives a hard bargain.
You didn't fight for yourself enough on that one, Alex.
That's all. Now this will be a great. It's going to be a fun game. It's an important game. For all the reasons that you outlined, Alex. And we'll see. I mean, the Rebels have been one of the hottest teams in the country over the last month of the season. So have certainly played their way back into a bid discussion, right? I mean, let's face it. Listen, when you look at teams like UNLV, Boise with a big win last night, we mentioned earlier New Mexico. If there are to be 6 Mountain West teams, then these are teams that are going to pop up in the committee's conversations. Going depending on what happens today, we know what happened last night, and what happens next week in the conference tournament here in Las Vegas.
Alex, do you want over 92.5 second half in Alabama and Arkansas? I just wanted to say it because it's 92.5 for a second half. And guess what? Number's 100% right with what it should be. 42-36 at the break, by the way, Arkansas in front of Alabama. For what it's worth, I think I'm probably going to take a piece of it, in all honesty, even at the ridiculous number at 92.5. The question will be, can Arkansas maintain, as it was last week with Kentucky, which they could for a while and then fell off in the end. By the way, I am very fortunate that this is a one-possession game. This was 12-0 St. John's, and it's now 36-35 St. John's with 30 seconds to go in the first half. All right. One last question for you.
Hit me.
Huge UFC card tonight.
Yes.
How's the action been on that so far?
Very good. UFC, very popular. I mean, this is, I think, a better card, too, than last week.
Significant. This is one of the best cards ever tonight, according to people that know.
Yeah. No doubt about it. UFC is, especially day of. So you've got, it's definitely a niche sport. I would still consider it a niche sport. What I mean by that is that there are folks that zero in on it and specialize on it. We had Lou Finicaro in last week.
Lou was awesome.
Yes.
And does a lot of good breakdowns, and not only in, let's say rematches, but styles. Remember, he talked about the different size of the octagons, right? In certain fights, from card to card. So kind of pay attention to those aspects. But as far as action goes, really good action. And right before I came in, actually, I was standing at the counter, and it was UFC. There were more UFC bets coming in, actually, because we had gotten a lot of the early basketball games action in already. So there was a flurry of UFC action right before I came in at the studio a half hour ago.
We have to ask Sean if he took Sean O'Malley.
Not yet. He's taking Sean O'Malley. He's taking some sort of bet that is skewed towards Sean O'Malley.
Sean O'Malley and under?
Under 4.5, yep.
Yeah,
Under 4.5.
He's definitely taking something that's skewed towards O'Malley. It's just a matter of what bet exactly it is for our guy Sean back there.
There you go.
They have the same name, but it's spelled differently. Right? Yeah, you're different spelling than Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley is an S-E-A-N name. That is not how Sean spells it back there. All right. You and Matt Neverett are back tomorrow.
That's right.
8:30 in the morning, getting you ready for Sunday action in college hoops. Great work by our crew. Caden, fighting through it. Drew Dog, Sean, Vinny, thank you.
Don't forget next week, Selection Sunday.
We have special programming that we will announce this upcoming week on Sunday, next Selection Sunday. It's going to be a big afternoon for one Alex White.
That's right. Numbers will go up right here at South Point, right as the pairings are announced.
So we will have a show after the bracket's been revealed and after the numbers have been put up.
Correct.
On Selection Sunday, we'll be getting you ready. That's a week from tomorrow. Boy, Selection Sunday and St. Patrick's Day. What a mix! Next week.
Hello.
You got the corned beef and cabbage ready, Vinny?
Speaking of Sean, you're ready. You're working that day. I'm just telling you right now.
We'll see you again tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.